people want behind the scenes. People want to see the inside of people's bedrooms.
Fuck, we got a team in this house right now of killers. I mean, like, no joke.
Even met Cube last night, which was insane. Dapped each other up, kind of like gave each other our flowers.
So Big3 should be like sponsoring you. They should be flying you out to all the games because it's like no one's doing it.
I gotta stack out this gold. I tell you I'm on the road. About to get all this dough. Me and no fuck niggas know. I swear to God we the ghosts. This ain't the story they told. Man, if you know, then you know. I never had to tell my dogs that we on rough for greatness. They paper getters, they want money more than they want fame shit.
Outside in hot Miami. Hot Miami, bro.
Yeah, bro. For the people that are just watching right now, we are on day 3 of Rolling Loud, and we're hurting a little bit.
Or listening. You might hear it in our voice.
Yeah, you might hear it in my voice right now. I'm hurting.
I think y'all are doing pretty well. I came in. I feel like the energy's still high, you know. So
yeah, no, we're trying to keep it going. Like the last day, like we're gonna have a busy ass last day. We've been trying to get a bunch of artist interviews, and we're gonna try to get a lot of man on the street stuff, which has been cool. Like we had a couple people that were funny as fuck, but it's like they're far and few between right now, and there's too many like specimens at Rolling Loud right now to not get some funny answers,
especially on that Saturday for sure.
It's the one thing with like man on the street. This is our second time doing it, and from like the content you see, and this is what I always tell him, like you want people that are like coming up to you and be like, oh, what questions you got, because it's like you know they're gonna give you something, and I hate going up to people that are like just kind of minding their own business, like, oh, bro, you know, what's this question? Because it's just like they don't want to be in it. Like that's like kind of like my drawback with it, but it's good content. It's good content. Like we did it for a New York Knicks game. It was New York Knicks Cavs, like game
like
4 or 5.
Game?
Yeah, playoff game. Oh yeah. So New York fans are nuts. Like
and they
nuts.
were wild. It was funny. Like we got a ton of compliments from it.
Yeah, you know, people liked it. That's why I wanted to do it again.
Yeah.
But it was literally the first round of the playoffs, and you would have thought it was fucking game 7 of the finals.
Oh yeah, they're not used to being there.
They were fucking bananas. So yeah. You know,
are y'all like in terms of the game plan? Is it like have fun like the first day, like kind of balance it the second day? Or?
It's been really like don't have any fun.
Yeah,
it's been like grind. like it's kind of interesting. So like for the people that don't know about like how it works at a festival, some festivals you're like a little bit closer to the action. Like we're at the Hard Rock Stadium, and right next to it is like the F1 stadium for Miami F1. So like our media stuff is in the F1 stuff, like in the F1 area. So we're nowhere near the stadium. Like we have to get carted. Like they take a golf cart and they like taxi you back there. Yeah. So like we can't even hear the music, nothing. And like to be honest with you, all the headliners are at night, but like our boys, the guys that we really want to see, are like performing in the day.
Of course.
So like we can't even see any of the people that we want to like actually see. We can't.
That's tough.
You know, so it's like it is a little shitty, but like we'll get to see the classic performance. Like we saw like Travis Scott, which like everyone was going crazy for. It was a good performance. We saw a bunch of really good artists, right?
Yeah.
So it's like it's cool, but at the same time we're like, fuck, if there were artists I would want to watch.
Yeah.
It's the people that we were like talking to, fucking with.
It's like the people that are performing at 5:30, not at
like
10:30.
Travis Scott's not coming to media day being like, oh hey, you know, guys, what do you guys want to talk about?
Yeah,
he's like, bro, I'm too fucking big for that. You know, so, which no disrespect to Travis because like he's obviously earned that. But
yeah, I kind of like miss old Travis when he was like Lil Dola Flame and stuff.
For sure, yeah.
So
have you ever been to Rolling Loud?
No, I've never been. I was actually talking to somebody today. Outside the hotel, and they were talking about like how they had a couple artists that were up there, and I was like, man, I should go there sometime. But I went to like festivals like Bonnaroo back in the day, you know, because I'm around that Tennessee area, so I went there a lot. It's pretty nuts. And then went to Voodoo Festival. So I don't know if it's like kind of similar to that. I feel like Rolling Loud's
mostly hip hop. A lot of it's interesting. Like Rolling Loud's kind of like a one of a kind. Like not many, even like a full country festival. I guess country festivals are kind of like the same. You know, they'll have just country, but like you go to like an EDM like Bonnaroo or whatever, they're gonna have everything. Like they have every music. Like they have it's predominantly like producers, DJs, but they're gonna have hip hop artists. They're gonna have a country artist. They're gonna have like a fucking rock guy. They're gonna have like some classic '80s band of old dude hippies that are just fucking jamming out on the set. Like they had everything.
Yeah.
So it's like a broad range where like Rolling Loud is like very niche. Like I was talking to a few people when we were at the 21 Savage concert, and they were all like, yeah, we're not really hip hop fans. We just wanted to come for the party, and I'm like, that's insane.
That's wild.
That's insane.
I think if I was ever gonna do another festival and I wasn't covering it, I think I would just do one day.
Yeah.
One day, go hard. Because then it's like day 2, it's like, okay. And like how they obviously do the festivals, they try to like even out the talent so you want to go all 3 days. But it's just like,
Well, we
you
used
pick
to,
and choose.
At Bonnaroo and stuff, you like camp, or you have the option to camp. So I've like camped before.
Oh, I hate that. I've done
it's
that.
exhausting.
It sucks.
And yeah.
I would never do that.
Yeah, it's fun like the first day. Like you go crazy. You know, they have concerts at 2 a.m. So you're like, I'll just be sleeping in the tent or whatever. But like, and it's hot and like you're exhausted.
It sucks.
And
I'm
you're
glad.
hungover and
I'm
you're
glad
struggling.
I'm glad you said that because I was trying to explain to him like I used to go to Electric Forest all the time, which is like a fucking nuts.
That's a different breed.
Yeah, it's a nuts
Yeah.
concert. And I was trying to explain to him like the last show here is at like 11:45 is when the last show starts. That's not even late. But you go to like Electric Forest, the last show is starting at 2 a.m. and then they're
100%.
gonna be like they're gonna run the set an hour and a half, and then they're gonna like where the RVs are because again you're camping. It's like bro, they'll literally put you. They'll have like, oh, we're doing a secret set with Marshmello in the RV section, and some dude has like some decked out RV with turntables and speakers, and Marshmello will just come up at fucking 4 a.m. while the people cracked out and just have a time, and it's like, bro, it's not that I'm not built for that. It's like I want to go to bed.
Well, I was gonna say even Bonnaroo is like different because like the last show on Sunday is always like some like kind of OG artist. Like they'll have like Elton John there or something as the last show.
Oh, yeah. They
Where in
always
the
got some
middle of the
huge-
shows they got like Lil Wayne or not Lil Wayne, Wiz Khalifa, or you know they might have Marshmello like 2 a.m. or something like that. So I think they kind of balance it.
So obviously, you know, based off the talk already, you know, we're obviously in Miami for Rolling Loud, but I want to introduce Anthony to the show. So today we have on Anthony Sigismond, and we connected actually, man, it was probably well over a year ago when Josh and I first started making content. It was during this kind of off season of sports where the Big 3 basketball was playing. I was like, there's something interesting about here. And obviously, like, I'm a big fan of Ice Cube and kind of what he's building. And we started making some Big 3 content. I think you saw our video,
Yeah,
and and like we immediately connected, and we kind of always stayed in touch. And obviously, you live here in Florida. But the reason why we got this to pull through is obviously we're in Miami for Rolling Loud, but the Big 3's playing today.
Yeah.
So it was kind of a full circle moment finally getting you on. So appreciate you coming on, man.
Man, I appreciate y'all having me. Yeah, like you said, saw your content originally, and I was kind of just following you guys for a little bit, and I was like, man, I like really respect what they're doing, like just grinding it out, and kind of have a similar mindset. I don't like, to me a little bit, where it's kind of like a fuck it attitude. Like you kind of got to go for it, kind of got to try new things, and put yourself out there a little bit, make yourself uncomfortable. And so I really appreciated that about you guys. So.
No, that's what we fuck with
appreciate
you.
that.
Honestly, like, we do appreciate that. It's like we fucked with you because you're hustling. It's like you actually found something that's like it's niche, but no one was doing it, and you kind of were like, "Fuck, I'm gonna be the guy who does it." And it's like I think that is gonna be the moment when you look back in 10 years, 20 years, you're gonna be like, "Damn, that was the moment that changed everything I was gonna do." Because at the end of the day, like doing things like that, like the Big 3, even if the Big 3 never worked out, it never works out, right?
Yeah.
You're gonna be able to look back at that, and you're gonna be able to move that to whatever place you want, and be like, "Oh, I did this. You know, I scaled this. Blah 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 blah. We worked with this." And it's like you should be trying to shoot for the moon.
Yeah.
In that sense, 'cause
It's
it's
pretty-
like
It's pretty wild that you say that, because actually last night was kind of like a revelation. So I've been to a few Big 3 events. I try to go to one like every single year. So I've been to Atlanta a couple times. I went to Vegas when they were kind of like coming out of the pandemic year or whatever. But last night was the first time I went to like an NFT party, because like a couple years ago they started where you could have NFT holders and they could be owners or part owners. And that's really like elevated to like another level this year. But they do like little events, like VIP events, and I went last night. And it was kind of like a full circle moment there, where it's like I've interviewed all these guys and now I'm meeting them in person.
Yeah.
Even met Cube last night, which was insane.
That's awesome.
And
That's awesome.
dapped each other up, kind of like gave each other our flowers and stuff. But that was a pretty surreal moment.
He had seen your content and everything?
He's seen my content before and was
Fuck.
just kind of talking about how he like appreciated what I was doing and stuff. And I was like, damn, like it's pretty insane to like meet people in person and like understand like they're actually watching. Like it's not like or listening or like seeing what I'm doing. It's not just kind of like, oh yeah, like we've seen that every now and then.
no,
So
Bro,
it's
Big 3 should be like sponsoring you. They should be flying you out to all the
Bro,
games
Big-
because it's
and
like
that's-
no one's doing it.
But
right?
that's something that's what I was gonna say. That's something that you should be trying to push with the Big 3.
For
I think
sure.
that you should, like, if there's anything that I can say, like us working in media and stuff, like you should be pushing. You should be trying. Like your biggest thing is, yes, you should be trying to make these relationships with the players. Obviously, like that's great. Players are gonna come and go. You should be trying to really start linking up with like some media companies. And I think, you know, maybe we can help you out a little bit and just, you know, give you your 2 cents. I think that you should be like reaching out to the Big 3 and being like, yo, how can I cover this game? Like what do I got to do? Even if it's like, you know, they only want to split the cost with you or whatever, it may just have to
For
bet on
sure.
yourself a little bit, but that's kind of what we're doing here.
yeah.
But I think that like with that, I mean, you never know who's going to see it. Like Cube might fuck with you and might want to bring you in on other shit.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like he might want to
That's a
partner.
good point.
You know what I mean? Like you got to think about it in the high side. Like, what can you offer Ice Cube? What can you do to him for him to be like, damn, this guy's pushing my shit for me. I'm not giving him a dime, whatever, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So it's like, that's what I would be thinking. How can you add value to these people and not want anything in return? If you can do that, it's gonna make them be like, wow, I really fuck with this guy, and that's everything.
100%. And I think, that's what I kind of respect about you guys, how you guys are kind of just pushing the limits on your own dime, right? And that's kind of what I'm trying to do as well, is trying to find that balance. It's interesting because when I first started this thing, I linked up with somebody and I had a co-host, and he actually got a job with the Big 3, like a contract job. And I was like, that's cool. He couldn't do the show anymore because it was kind of like contradicting.
Yeah. Conflict of interest.
Yeah, exactly. So he actually went to work for him. But what happened is over time is that he ended up not getting his contract renewed, and now he's not doing anything with the Big 3. We don't really talk to each other. But it's even crazier to the other extent is like, well, that's the route I'd want to go, but now I've seen how it could play out potentially, and you don't want it to play out like that. And then on the other side, it's like I've had players where I posted stuff, and then when he was still kind of my co-host, also working for the Big 3, trying to balance that out, he would be like, hey, don't put this up. It's not a good look for the league. Whereas players were coming on, it's like, hey, you're like our voice in a sense.
Right.
Like, we need you to kind of come through for us. So.
And I think
Listen,
that's
if people aren't reaching out saying you shouldn't put it out, you're probably not pushing it
for
hard
sure.
enough.
You definitely got to
sure.
push it. Like I think that anything in social, it's not going to rub everyone the right way. Like you can't please everyone. You can't appeal to everyone. And it's like that is kind of a thing that you might have to decide when it comes push to shove. What do you want to be? Do you want to be for the people, like for the players?
Yeah.
Or is it like, do I want to be for the organization? And I think there is a balance where it's like, obviously there's a balance. Mm-hmm. But with that being said, it's like almost being like, what do I want to do? And I think obviously with the players is probably like where I would think like most people or the fans, like players, fans, how they feel. Because at the end of the day, you are a fan. You are like so it's like you have to be like, how would I want it? How am I reacting? And I think that's like when we talk about like part of my take a lot, like the reason why they're so successful is because they're relatable, but two, they're fans, and they're like they play into that even so much more that they're like, fuck, we're such fans that we're like dumb fans, and like we do it. Not to say we got to do that, but I'm just saying like that plays when you do things like that. So definitely a good thing to think about.
Talk about how you got into the Big 3 basketball.
For sure.
Like what made you want to get into that? Because I obviously see why. I think you were definitely trying to go for something that's like different, kind of out of the box. That's why we started making. I was trying to we were doing a lot of sports content, but I was like, there's no sports. I'm not covering baseball because no one cares about baseball. Like no one does.
Yeah.
So it's like, how can I do something? And basketball's such a huge market. There's soccer and basketball, probably the two biggest sports in the world.
Yeah.
So it's like, and I don't watch any soccer. So it's like, how can we make content? And I thought the Big 3 was different because it's, it's obviously 3-on-3. It's different. They're not trying to be the NBA. They're getting these like old NBA stars or people who were good overseas. And I think that's another conversation to have, is like getting some like bigger names in the Big 3.
For sure.
But talk about like what led you to make the Fourth Man podcast.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's interesting. So I was a sports journalist, or I wanted to be an aspiring sports journalist out of college. Wanted to work for the newspaper and cover shit. And then you kind of realize, like, a little too late sometimes, like, you don't really know what you want to do when you're 18 years old. You think you know what you want to do, and then when you graduate, you're like, oh, this is not for me. That was exactly what happened. I was like, I don't want to work for the newspaper here in, like, Chattanooga, Tennessee, which is where I went to school.
Right.
I mean, they're not even thinking progressively of what to do. They're still printing out paper copies, and that's just not the movement in the world today. So I still wanted to do something. Like you said, I didn't want to cover the 4 major sports. I didn't want to be another take that's just like kind of going by on people's timelines. And so I was like, I come from a smaller town, and it's not like super small, but it's a smaller town where people aren't aware of some of the players and athletes that come out. And I was like, I want to be able to cover guys that like aren't as well known. So originally I actually started with I was watching the Big 3. I was blogging a little bit about it for season 2, but I was like, I really wanted to get into podcasting. And so played football in high school. I was living in Atlanta in 2019, and I was covering the Alliance of American Football, the Atlanta Legend, which is a spring league that we debunked. And I was getting a lot of good traction from there, especially because they were city affiliated. I was like, oh, this is dope. I'm meeting players. I'm meeting personnel. I'm getting a lot of good interviews. Like, I like this a lot. But at the same time, I was like, I still want to do stuff with the Big 3. And so, like, was kind of starting a podcast there. Was going to kind of try to balance everything and then create, like, one big medium for everything of, like, the underdogs kind of and, like, these, like, complementary leagues. well, then, as every spring football league does, comes and crashes.
Yeah.
And so, that went out the door. I put all my eggs in like one basket for the Big 3. And then just one thing led to another. My first interview, and just shout out to this guy, Craig Smith, who used to play for the LA Clippers. He was playing for the Enemies at the time. And from there, just kind of like snowballed. A lot of players were into it, interested in coming on the show, was getting a lot of coverage. And then maybe about I met my co-host who was kind of covering the Big 3. He wasn't doing a podcast, but he was doing like updates and stuff. So I felt like it was a good connection there. And then maybe about a year into it, was recognized by the league and then so forth. I met Ice Cube, went to my first event as a credential member. Yeah. And at that time, I didn't know what the fuck I was doing, honestly. I was like nervous as hell. I was like getting starstruck a little bit. But as time goes on, like last night, I felt like I just like knew these guys really well. So anyways, that being said, just wanted to cover something that wasn't the norm, just a little bit different. I work in sales, so a big thing is like, be a pattern disruptor. And that's ultimately what I was trying to do.
Yeah, no,
I love that.
No, I love that too. Honestly, like that's good shit, man. That's really cool.
I've had this thought about like, those like spring football leagues of how to make them last. And obviously you need a lot of money because it's a lot of upfront expenses.
Yeah.
My thing is I think they should make each NFL team or like 2 NFL teams support one of the spring football teams. Because here's the thing. One, every other sport has minor leagues. Every sport.
Yeah.
It also, this is where it benefits the NFL team. Players on your practice squad, maybe players that get like hurt, players you just want to like see get more reps. They can play in that league.
Yeah.
Like whether it's 1 game, 2 games, couple plays a game, whatever it is. And I think that's where it needs to go. Like there's a lot of good football players out there, but I think where the spring football leagues are lacking is everybody talks about the quarterback play because it's obviously there's a huge drop off, but there's so many like better players out there that I think could make it to the NFL, and everybody loves an underdog story. Everybody wants that. I think if the football teams would actually support it, like they say the NFL supports it, but I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
But like if the Detroit Lions and the Jacksonville Jaguars are like, we're going to sponsor the Michigan Panthers.
Yeah.
Like we're going to send our players, we'll send resources, we're going to make sure they're good. Like it would work. I just don't know if the NFL teams want to do that.
Yeah, it would be interesting. I mean, clearly the quarterback's going to drop off because 1, hardest position to play in sports, but 2.
But think about all the practice squad quarterbacks that
sure.
should go there and get reps.
For sure, 100%.
And it would immediately get better.
But also think about the guys that are really good that like knew they weren't going to be playing in the NFL, and they were like, I know I'm not going to be. I don't want to be a practice squad guy. I'm just going to get a job because I'm a smart guy. How many of those guys are there?
Yeah.
A lot.
A lot.
It's crazy. Like offensive linemen is like what I see a lot of like teams actually needing. Like they talk about how in the spring league or the XFL, USFL, like they're lacking offensive linemen. So like for any of the big dudes out there listening to this, like maybe that's the route to go. But it's interesting you bring up that point because like right now Cube's on like kind of a fuck the gatekeepers tour where they're kind of having this issue where the NFL is like embracing what the XFL is doing, whereas NBA is not, and it's like how do you support those leagues without making them competition, right? Like these are complementary leagues. The NBA doesn't see the Big 3 as that, which it is a complementary league. Like the Big 3 is not competing with the NBA.
Yeah. I completely agree, and I think I could see why the NBA has pushback with it, only in the sense because they already have like the G League. Yeah. But in my head, the G League and the NBA run simultaneously, right? Sure. It's like a true minor league system, and I think that's why the NFL doesn't really collide with the other summer leagues because it's opposite seasons. So it's like, yes, you do get the reps, but it's like
the Big 3's opposite season.
Exactly, but that's why I think it's hard for the NBA is because it's opposite season. It's hard for them to like rebrand themselves. Like, oh, there's NBA all the time because the NBA already has a problem right now with trying to get people to focus on 82 games because guess what? Guys don't want to play 82 games.
For sure.
So it doesn't matter if you made the season 50 games. Guys would be like, I don't want to play all 50 games. So it doesn't matter how many games you make it. But so because they know that
because no one gives a fuck
because
about the
no one
season.
Exactly the regular season, so it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
So for the NBA to be like, yo, we're gonna try to push this on the people that people don't already know, or maybe they do. Some people know, but aren't fully educated on it, or like fully like it's not super mainstream yet. I should say, like the NBA. But with that being said, I think that's maybe the reason why they have pushback with it is because they have such a hard time getting their own 82 games to be relevant. To make it like, oh, we need to get this summer league now going, and I think that's a completely different thing, especially because they already kind of have like their big summer league, they have their draft. So like in marketing corporate minds that like I've been kind of thinking in lately. It's like everything's on seasons. Everything's like, oh, we have this, then we do this, then we do this, and it's like it's hard to disrupt that. Like it has to be something where like if Cube can grow it, maybe Cube has to get a little Saudi money up in here, start buying a couple players, and then maybe
I think that's what
then
it is.
maybe the NBA goes, oh fuck, we're gonna pay attention and make this like a complimentary thing.
Yeah. I mean, hey, that's a great point. I mean, like, they're trying to get their they want people to watch Summer League, and then like
Exactly.
they're struggling to get people to watch that as well because draft picks play like what 1 or 2 games.
Exactly, but like it sucks because you got like Wembanyama, who everyone wants to fucking watch, and they're like he plays 1-2 games, and then they're like we're gonna shut him down. He's good, which I get 100%. But as a fan, you're like, yo, this fucking hype has been ridiculous.
Yeah.
Like, we want to see this guy play a couple games. Like, let's see him hoop.
Well, it's tough too, just because the Big Three is not only like having to, because like you said earlier, like basketball is one of the most popular sports in the world. So not only do you have the NBA that you're fighting against, but you also have FIBA who you're fighting against, 3-on-3 basketball, like, right? So like back in 2019, this guy Dusan Bola, who's the captain of Aliens now, he was actually drafted by the Big Three, and it was right before the Olympics, the first time they were doing 3-on-3, and they basically told him like, hey, if you play in the Big Three, like we're gonna put down sanctions on you, and you're not gonna play in the Olympics. So he was like, I can't play that year. Ends up playing in 2021, now in 2022, 2023, whatever. But, like, from what I know, he's suspended from FIBA because he decided to go the Big Three route. So, like, it's just kind of like because you're in one of the biggest sports in the world, you're kind of fighting with everybody, which is kind of why I do the podcast, too, is to continue to try to bring awareness and say, like, hey, they're in their own lane right here. They're not trying to –
Maybe – sorry to interrupt. Maybe it's almost like – that just reminded me of – maybe it's not the NBA they need to line up with. Maybe the Big Three needs to line up with FIBA, because I'll tell you why. It's almost that just reminded me of like PGA Live, right? They were like, if you go to Live, you won't, you'll be this, you'll be that. Maybe it's just like one of those things where it's like, there's no bad for FIBA and Big Three to not work together, right? Like, because they really could, because like the FIBA's only every couple of years, isn't it?
I think they do like a tour year round. It's just like such different styles, you know.
Right.
And I think
I didn't know they did a tour. I thought it was like every couple of years thing.
They do like a bunch of tours, and like you qualify like all year round for like.
I could see why
tour.
it's so again even maybe more of the reason why it's fucking big. PGA
tough.
Live. It's just a competition.
So.
You know what I mean? It almost makes it just makes it seem very similar.
It is interesting though, like just because all these different leagues are coming out, it's kind of like. I don't know if you've ever heard this, but like there's only like 13 different storylines you can actually like movie producers and authors can put together. Supposedly, like there's only 13 different foundations you can put together. It feels like that in sports right now, where it's like
for sure
you got football, baseball, basketball, golf, or whatever, and then they got different iterations of it. I mean, slam ball just came back with basketball. You got
golf
the tournament.
came out with some like arcade version. Or
right.
It is.
I mean, then you got Top Golf Factor. I mean, I know they're not professional, but it's just like iterations of everything.
For
it seems
sure.
like right now.
That's a good point.
They're just trying to gamify it, right? Maybe
Yeah,
Big 3 needs to
everything is
gamify more. And I know they try to do the 4-point thing, and I think maybe gamifying it more could help. I'm just interested to see. I think a lot of it, and like just like what we were talking about with like the summer league, with like this
That'd
like
be sick.
mic'd up would be cool.
Sorry to interrupt.
No,
Mic'd
you're
up.
good. All behind the scenes shit would be cool.
Yeah.
Like
Vlog.
inside the locker room,
that'd be
travel
sick.
vlogs, because it's like they're traveling every weekend or every other weekend wherever it's at. Like following the teams would be cool. People like behind the scenes, like Hard Knocks has proved that.
Yeah.
The 24/7 leading up to big boxing matches has shown that like people want behind the scenes. People want to see the inside of people's bedrooms. It's a fact.
And that could be a really cool angle for you if you could get like if you like you start pressing it and give out an idea and just kind of be like, yo, I want to get more behind the scenes footage. I think it would be crucial to the fans and people that want to watch it, because you could make it look really cool, like especially if you mic these fucking guys up. Like, you could get some real HBO shit. And to be honest with you, it's actually easy because there's only 3 guys on each side. So it's like, you're talking about way less numbers. Way less people. Like, there's such a focus on these certain players. It's like, you could really do some cool shit
especially with like
access.
the Big 3. Like, they usually have pretty cool head coaches too, which I think gives it an angle.
Yeah.
Also, the one thing
I think that could be interesting.
the one thing I think they have to do, and it matters, and it's the same thing with like the spring football leagues. You got to figure out how to get bigger names. Like the one time, the first season when I think it was the first season, they had AI, right?
Yeah.
He played like 2 minutes.
Yeah.
But it's like they sold that fucking thing out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like it's doing that over and over. How every weekend can you get a superstar to just play one game?
Yeah. No,
That's the idea, because it's like if you sell at the stadium, you're making money.
And I think this is like the first year they didn't bring in like a big name. Like Joe Johnson was playing in the league last year, and then like
ISO
abruptly
Joe.
like retired.
They
ISO
had
Joe.
Gerald Green too. He played.
Yeah. But I was gonna just say I felt like there was like actually like a relationship issue maybe there with the big three, or like maybe there was just like a lot of like scheduling change or whatnot where Joe didn't want to play. So I was actually saying before the season, I was like, their biggest thing right now is making sure that you get the face of the league, because he's the face of the league. I think right now, being a 2-time MVP, a champ, whatever, getting him, making sure that he's playing for another season, which he is. So I think that was a big win. However, like you said, bringing in like, I don't know, like a Lance Stevenson, like a DeMarcus Cousins, just like a
100%.
big name like that. And I think maybe
Dwight
as the league-
Howard,
Dwight
like-
Howard, yeah. Like I think as the years go on, hopefully they'll be able to do more of that. But like this year, I think it was more of just like trying to get back on tour. Like they're going
They
to different
definitely. I
cities.
mean, I definitely think the one game is almost like a great option, because it's like at that point it's just relationships. Like that's like Big 3, Ice Cube. Really, it's not even Big 3. It's Ice Cube. Ice Cube's got to go some Gary V shit and start fucking just dialing in, like honestly, because I think that's like really what it comes down to. Like if you get like a Dwight Howard to come out and be like Dwight, because he's in Thailand, bro, and the reason why he's in Thailand, it's just money.
Yeah,
that's all
yeah.
it
Well,
is,
he's
right?
all about
he's
money.
back now, but
But that's what I'm saying. But like, you know what I mean? It's
I
just
would say,
money.
it's like they don't even have to be like basketball. Like, bro, you could fucking have Snoop Dogg come play a game, have J. Cole come play a game.
I think it'd be cool if they had like
Because
some
either way-
NFL guys come or
'cause-
something.
Yeah, NFL guys, like that'd be an interesting
like
one. J. Cole,
it's
that's
big
a
names,
great one.
It's big names that people would pay to see play basketball.
Obviously, J. Cole's probably expensive to get out, but he's also a hooper, and he might.
But you're gonna sell out
But
the
it's the thing,
stadium.
and Cole's like, but like, it's a guy like J. Cole. Why is Big 3 not going? Like Ice Cube go up to him like, "Hey, bro, I know you're a hooper. All right, we're gonna do one in Charlotte, North Carolina, your hometown. We're gonna do it here. I'm gonna give you half the ticket revenue. The other half is gonna go to the Big 3. We're gonna do this right. You're gonna be hooping, blah blah blah. You can talk to the people. You can do whatever you want. You don't gotta perform nothing like that. But like, bro, talk to the people. Like, show love. Like, go. Like, I would tailor it to these big people and just be like, yo, how can we do? And
I
maybe
think
that's
what it is.
maybe that's not wrong. Maybe that's not like all the time. But like if they're just picking random cities throughout, like I would be like, who can we get in this big city? Who can come out and do this, right?
Well,
And
I
like,
think that's kind of the start of it, is like just making sure back on tour, making sure you're getting a bunch of people in the seats first, building that revenue so you have the cash flow to go out and do something like that. But man, that'd be cool. I mean, like I was trying to think of recently.
where do you see the league in the next like 5 years? Like what do you see? Like what are not only do like where do you see the league? Is there anything you're trying to like lucratively do within it? Like what's your like 5-year plan
Besides behind the scenes shit that you're gonna
Behind the
pitch
scenes.
Ice Cube on as soon as you leave here.
here?
Yeah,
That's
got
that's
to.
a great idea. Like you just need to be like HBO Hard Knocks, but for Big 3.
Man, yeah, that'd be dope. Definitely need to pitch that idea for sure. In terms of the plan and where I see the league, it's interesting because I think the pandemic really fucked them. I think there was a peak season of 2019, and I think it was kind of like trying to get that 3-year build-up again, where like back now and here in 2023, we're seeing great numbers, but it's like almost like you had to restart, like get the name back out. Because if you're not doing anything for a year,
sure.
no one's going to remember
You're dead.
who you're doing. Exactly. So in terms of that, I think the league is growing constantly. I see like more credibility this year being put on the league, and like players like really like embracing it and trying to get the name out of it. So I see bigger names in the league. I see the league lasting. I mean, I would say at least for the next 5 years for sure with some of those bigger names. I see the league going international. Like they're going to London this year for the championship game, but I could see games in like
I didn't know that, but that makes
Yeah.
a lot of sense traveling because, like we all know, you get some big names. People internationally love basketball.
yeah.
Like people are gonna show up. It might
sure.
do better internationally than in America.
It might do better. They might need to take the Big 3 to China.
Well,
where Big
yeah,
3's
and
where,
so they
where
were doing
basketball's popping.
I think they were doing like a mini tour there this offseason.
They
so,
definitely
like,
should.
I
They
like
didn't have
that.
any other
That's
like
a great idea.
huge guys out there. They had some OGs, but
Wow.
yeah, I think they should like definitely get some guys out there. I think they should get like you said, some artists, some like NFL players, maybe an MLB player in there. I mean, like they got some social or like Instagram hoopers
Right.
or like guys that like are big on social media.
I mean,
They got
there's-
Hezzy
but that's a
Gods.
good idea.
there's like
too.
so
Yeah.
Chris Berkeley, right? He works with all these NBA guys, New York guys. Shout out. He fucking always has like Stephon Diggs. Like Stephon Diggs goes to Chris Berkeley and works on his game. He's an NFL player, a stud in the NFL, and he's in there hooping. And it's like I watch him and I'm like, bro, if he committed his time just to hooping, this guy could play in the league. Like he is a freak fucking athlete.
And maybe that's the angle you take it as a
Yeah.
sense of like two-sport athlete as a
Yeah.
professional. Like I don't know how many people would want to do that, but like for instance in the TBT they got Dominique Rodgers-Cromartie with his own team, and he's just out there hooping. He's not the best player, but he's out there hooping.
Like,
I think that's a cool angle if you
like,
get a bigger player.
for sure. But like to
Yeah.
me, it's like that's why it'd be great to get like an NBA sign off because it's like all these guys are hooping.
Yeah,
like
yeah.
if anybody knows anything about NBA players, they just hoop. Like Jimmy Butler gets off of the fucking finals, next day he's hooping, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, why does it matter if they like you got a big name, they give him $1 million to go fucking play in one fucking game or whatever it is in their city? They don't got to do nothing. It's like, yeah, we're in the Cleveland Cavaliers. We're gonna have fucking Donovan Mitchell. He's gonna show up, and he's not even have to play. He just plays a fucking little bit, shooting around.
That'd
Like
be nuts.
You know what I mean? But like, why not? Like, they're already hooping. They'll go to the LA Fitnesses and fucking hoop for fun. You know what I mean? Like, they go hoop with random motherfuckers.
Yeah.
Like, these guys are not, like, there's no one in the Big 3 who's a bad basketball player. These guys are
Yeah.
all good basketball players.
For sure.
Like, they're not going to go there and get hurt because they're playing with bums.
Yeah,
Like, you know
that's
what I
an
mean?
interesting angle too. I think it's just a matter of like Cube and Adam Silver eventually like coming to a compromise.
And maybe that's just me being a dumb fan, right? And I'm just like, why, like,
I don't think any theory out there you throw out is a bad idea.
I mean,
You
but like
never
people,
know.
right? Like I saw like Kyrie, LeBron, like they'll go play in the Drew League and like you know like in the summer, like those guys are good basketball players, clearly.
Yeah.
Like that are in the Drew League, but like doesn't matter. Like the Big 3 guys, like bro, you got a ton of NBA guys, so it's
Yeah.
like, what's the difference? You know, you got young bucks, you got a couple older guys. Like yeah, maybe the pace, maybe a little bit, maybe slower. I don't know. I doubt it, right? Like
Yeah.
it's probably pretty close.
3-on-3, you're trying to get back and clear the ball.
Exactly.
And,
Like it's quick, it's fast paced, right?
Yeah. Royce White actually talked about that too. Is like if he ever got another NBA chance, you know, he would still play in the Big 3 because he fucks with it, you know.
Man, I'm very, very interested to see where the Big 3 goes. Obviously, I always keep a close eye on it. I work a little bit close to it, so I'm excited to see where it comes. I think there's definitely a lane with it, but Anthony, brother, appreciate you coming on, man. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Bro,
Yeah,
it's been
appreciate it. Enjoyed the
a fact.
conversation. Thank you.
Bro,
I'm
we'll have
honored
to
to be on.
No, yeah, we'll have to if we're around, bro. Maybe we'll catch a Big 3 game eventually here, and
For sure.
For sure.
We'll try to do to wrap it up. Maybe if Cube wants to do the Hard Knocks, we'll come in and help.
First two
We'll
guys,
come in- we'll-
I'll come reach out
Well,
to you.
bro, we'll fucking hey, if he wants it, we'll be like, hey, you know, we'll give it a
We'll
good
set
old
something
fashioned
up.
go.
Gary V's got a team, so
You
maybe
know,
For
hey,
sure.
I mean, fuck, we got a team in this house right now of killers. I mean, like, no
Facts.
joke. Like, these
Yeah.
guys are, like, you know, Creighton and Devin. They can shoot some crazy shit.
Facts.
Crazy
So,
shit.
got
So.
to.
But appreciate you coming on, brother.
Appreciate you, bro.
Sold
Thank
it
you.
high, niggas sold it hello. I sold them packs to get them racks. Shit, I was stuck on my lows, and now I'm trying to get up. I told them niggas what's up, and now I'm singing. Yeah. If you gon' go, then go. Don't tell me you won't. I want them diamonds on my neck to make me look like I'm cold. That ain't for you and none of these hoes. That's just for me and my bros. I gotta fight for my balls. I gotta stack out this gold. I tell you I'm on the road. We about to get all this dope. We ain't no fuck niggas, no. I swear to God we the ghosts. This ain't the story they told. Man, if you know, then you